What's up, Amazon sellers? Today, I want to share with you a journey that I have learned about a good friend of mine, Soros, and he's here today. I'm going to be interviewing, particularly this guy I love. Why? Because he's an 8-figure Amazon seller in his second year. There's 10 million in sales. And you know what? Everything didn't go to plan. He hit that number. And then this year, he's been changing the game up, restructuring his team. And I want to learn all about this and share it with you today. So stay tuned. Right, guys, if you don't know, today I'm here with a good friend of mine, Soros, and this guy is an inspiration. My God, I've learned so much from him, and he is an amazing Amazon seller. When I heard that he was an 8-figure Amazon seller doing arbitrage, it is absolutely insane. So I don't really want to introduce too much. So Soros, if anyone doesn't know who you are, can I ask you, introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about your journey and where you've come from?
Yeah, Tom, thanks for having me on. I'm Soros. The journey it's like, you snap your fingers and you're here. Like 3 years ago, I didn't even trust my instincts at all to build a business, and it's crazy. So yeah, I started off like retail arbitrage, scanning stuff in a store. Before that, I was a CPA, but we were trying to break out of that. Got a mentor, scanning stuff in the store. Next thing you know, I got a $10 million store with 26 employees. And this year, we have had to restructure because business atmosphere has changed. And let's say we got a little ahead of ourselves, but super pumped. This year, 2022, was a year of growth and a year of restructuring, and it didn't hit the bank account the same way as 2021. But as you probably know, Tom, and I think as a lot of entrepreneurs know, and people in the markets, a lot of times the recessions, the down periods, probably all the time, that's when all the true building and all the true major decision-making comes into play so that you can soar when the market kind of lifts again and when kind of things are going in your favor again. So I'm super excited.
Agreed. Fantastic. And question for you, just tell us about that journey up to 10 million. So before the change, before what's this year. So talk about the first 2 years. What was the plan? How was, what was the team, and why did you build it so big?
Man, I'll try to give I'll try to give the medium short version, but basically when I started Amazon, first of all, I was super skeptical that it could even work. I got a mentor and something sparked right away when I saw his operation, and I was like, this guy knows what he's doing at least, and let's listen to what he has to say. And I set some crazy goal. I was like, I'm gonna do $1 million in my first year, $4 million in my second. I didn't even know how to do the company, but I thought that was cool to just throw it out there. I'm doing that now. I'm starting goals for 2023. Set out a goal that scares you and excites you. You should not know the pieces to get there. If you know the piece to get there, if you even think you have it 80% of the way, that goal is not going to excite you or scare you. That's not something that's going to energize you in the morning. So I think I did that early on, not really knowing that that's a known business thing. Think and Grow Rich, they mentioned that. And this year I'm really focusing on stuff like that. So anyway, back to that journey, I tossed out those goals. What am I thinking? In the back of my mind, I'm like, I just want to make 100 grand a year. If I can make proof of concept that I can live a life off of this business, this will be life-changing. If I can make 100 grand a year. And as the confidence built and I just got better and better at it, met new people, new dreams were being planted. When you meet a guy that's doing 100,000 a month in net profit, why does that not just become your dream? So that's exactly what happened. And then I met a guy that did that, and that knew a guy, just hearing of another guy that did $400,000 a month. Crazy, right? One of the top 20 Amazon sellers. I'm like, why not? Let's plant it in the head. So again, I didn't really give the journey, but that's kind of stuff that was going on. So we got the mentor. We're, I'm just having faith, just listening to his method. He's really big on mindset over tactics. 80% of business, 80% of Amazon is mindset. Optimistic mindset. If you have a bump in the road, move on, focus on the next step, and focus on the wins all the time. That was just his constant lessons. He's like, listen, Soros, I'm not going to teach you that many tactics. I'm going to give you some things necessary, but there aren't really shortcuts here. You just got to get in every day with an optimistic attitude. And I really took that to heart. And that's what I teach most people. So yeah, if you really boil it down, I spent a ton of time sourcing. I still recommend everybody do that. He said source as long as humanly possible, because sourcing is your highest value activity in Amazon. It's the thing that it's the only valuable thing you're doing. You're finding price gaps, you're finding cheap things to sell on Amazon. Every other thing is a small value add, but this is your big value add. So develop your edge. Don't just go have someone else do that for you right away. So a lot of sourcing, getting my hands dirty on a lot of different products, getting them in, watching prepping them, sending them in, and hitting a lot of confidence that just the numbers are working out around month 4, month 5. Like, I'm buying $25 shoes and they're selling for 60 over and over and over again. Around that time, around that feeling of confidence, I started maxing out the credit cards. And that's when like the real growth started. I don't know, one thing led to another. You hire a prep center, hire a VA, my first VA, to do a little spreadsheet task, hire the second VA, start a little online arbitrage. And it's actually very blurry after the team of like 3 or 4 how it got to 26. Like at one point we were making so much money hand over fist, or we thought we were, that we were like, let's just focus on buying and keep adding sourcers. There's no reason to focus on anything else. And that actually worked for a little bit, but some creep started happening where we were buying too much dud inventory. We weren't understanding our returns numbers, and maybe just our quality slipped. We weren't tracking inventory. My theory was, we'll fix that all later. The money's in buying right now. It was fun, but I paid the price at the end of the year. But you know what? That's how I learned. And that kind of peaked in euphoria in 2021. We were doing $1 million months. And I learned after doing 2021's books in the beginning of 2022 that something was off. The bank account wasn't going up as much as I thought it should be. And that was because we were accumulating a lot of slow inventory and we were losing a lot of inventory. There's a lot of different areas you can lose inventory. So that's kind of a super fast version of like how we got there. And then, if you wanted to talk about this year, we took it from there.
Well, we'll come to this year soon. So the question I want to ask you is, my God, you said so much there. Mindset over tactics, focus on wins. I love that. You talked about sourcing as the most valuable thing that you do. 100% is your edge. You said obviously develop your edge. I love that as well. One question I want to ask, and obviously a common one, is you went big, quick, massive. 2 years, 10 million. Like, I don't know many people doing 10 million at all in Amazon, let alone doing it in 2 years. So you like rocket ship to the moon. And obviously you did it, you built a team, you said you went from 3 to 26. That was like incredible, and it was a bit of a blur. But the question I want to ask you is like that first hire, like you said it, is like, when is that first hire right if people are looking at it? Like you said that they did some spreadsheet tasks. Talk me about the mindset, talk about the decision metrics through that. Because on the one hand, you're saying source, that's your edge, don't outsource. But on the other hand, you went to the moon with 26 staff. So I'm kind of understanding like, when should that right hire be? When was it right for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people try to go the other way. They're like, how do you structure your company? And really, it did all happen naturally first. It came first like I need to make one hire for this specific task, and then things started to fall into place. I will say my first of all, a prep center. No, before the prep center, actually. My first big hire was a nanny, so I could get out the door and work on this business. Because I was doing it for 3-4 months, burning out, getting out at noon, just like not being in my highest level state when I started work. And I started burning out. I told my mentor, like, I need a break. Something is wrong with personal. I had a new baby. I could not get out the door. My wife had like this complex diet, and this nanny / breakfast helper would come in at 6 a.m. And by the way, I could not afford her. At that time, it was like, I'm putting money into this business. I can't spend more money. But the way I decided, sometimes you have to take these leaps. You have to buy things that you don't think you can afford. Say, look, I'm going to try this for 1 month. If this nanny works and leads to good things, maybe we'll keep. But I'm only investing 1 month in her, a couple $1,000. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't work. That got me to finally take that leap and not be cheap with my money. And we got her, and within a couple weeks, I'm getting out at 6:30 a.m., getting to my office, which is at Panera, getting my coffee. And I think within the first week, I had signed on with a prep center. And those of you guys that haven't gotten a prep center yet, if you're prepping your own product, that saved me possibly 20 hours a week of the amount of prep I was doing at my house. So we go from being kind of confused and hard to get out the door to now having a nanny that saves me 4 hours a morning. So, 20 hours a week. And then I hired a prep center, and that's like a 20-hour a week gain. So now I have 40 extra hours to do high value things like sourcing. So those are my first hires. I guess prep center isn't necessarily a hire, and the nanny isn't necessarily a business hire, but people don't always understand that personal and business is so intertwined. It's so important for both to work. And then we got to my first virtual assistant just because I was doing another low value task that when I would drop stuff at the prep center. I would buy stuff all day at the outlets. By the way, I was doing retail arbitrage. I'd fill up my, it was a CRV, then I bought a van, drop the stuff at the prep center, scan it and get a flat file. And then I would take an hour or two to prep the flat file to send it back to the prep center so they knew what we dropped off. I decided to hire my first VA just to do that spreadsheet task. So that saved me an hour or two a day again. So I'm just winning back high value time. And that's what ended up leading to a company structure. Simply just saying, what is taking all my time that isn't valuable? And then hiring for that. I didn't think, okay, these are the pieces I need to build this company. All I did was say, all right, here's a timesheet of my day. I'm wasting so much of my day doing this. Okay, let's see if we can get someone else to do this for me.
Wow, thank you. I love that. I wrote down here, outsourced the nanny. Like first thing I outsourced is like, get a VA. No, but hire a nanny. I think that's brilliant. And then obviously you did the prep center. That was brilliant. And I love. I wrote it down here as well. You said high value, winning back high value time. And I think it's so relevant. Like it's again, you said your edge is the sourcing, and what you've done, you've made that decision to, should we say, get as much time back so you can focus on that edge and develop that edge as much as you can. So obviously you talked about, your first one was obviously to kind of do the inventory listing, should we say, or kind of the prep center where you're dropping off stock. Talk me through, so you had 3 VAs. What was the structure then? What were they doing?
So once we got to that point, I had one, and he was just doing that task. And I think around that time, right when I was hitting my stride, and we hit COVID and we opened up Arbitrage Ops, a community, our Amazon community. Around that time, a big time seller, this is when a big time seller came in and I met him and he told me a little bit more about online arbitrage. I had this belief, crazy, you sometimes just add these limiting beliefs in your head. Like, my mentor was retail arbitrage. He told me one time that online arbitrage seemed hard and complicated. So I just had it in my mind. I repeated it 1,000 times that online arbitrage is hard, and that's why I do retail arbitrage. Well, then this guy pops in and just blows my mind in like a 1-hour call, and he's like, yeah, I'm making $100,000 minimum a month doing online. I don't go to the store at all. And I'm like, what? And gave me just a couple little just tips on where to like kind of to head. So around that time, I was like, I took my VA and I was like, all right, you got extra time. Let's start online sourcing together. So me and him would video chat and just sit all day online and like also like just look for shoes and try tactics. And it took months of that before we were even getting checkouts through. Like, it was a dark period. I remember attempting to get this to work. Couldn't get checkouts through. We couldn't find products. Kind of how it feels when you start. It's how it feels when you start any business. When you start Amazon, this is honestly one of the big lessons of Amazon. Just from that act of scanning, and you don't think you can find anything. You have all these limitations, and then months go by and you get confidence, and then the veil lifts and suddenly you're finding all this stuff. The same thing happened in retail, same thing happened in online. Right now, my sources are really good at clothing and apparel. I send them off to grocery and they're like, there's nothing there. It's too hard. I'm like, it's the same exact thing. You just don't know it yet. You don't think there's people making an absolute killing on grocery? Back to the question about the VAs. So that's how he got more active. He started doing more sourcing with me. I knew he had a lot of skill, so we did it together. So this was like the beginnings of me giving my first VA basically everything in my brain. I was teaching him everything that I knew I had learned. And this is what I recommend if somebody hires a first or second VA. Like, you want to take care of them. You want to treat, this is not a VA, this is an employee. Could be your top staff. This could be your CEO. When you hire a VA or an employee, I like to always consider, like, could this person be a top CEO in my company eventually? Most of the time that doesn't happen. But if you're always looking for that, then, you hired 5-10 people, 1 or 2 of them are going to be an absolute star. We got more into that. We hired a guy off of Twitter who was he was literally asking for money in my DMs. He was struggling, and I said, work for me instead. And that was a weird, interesting case. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, to my first VA, I'm like, what did I do here? Like, I know this is wasting our time. We almost tried to give him to another store. A few months go by, and he's still my number 1 sourcer. He is the best sourcer. He has an endless motor. So I guess the lesson there is, you don't always know how people are going to turn out. But the most important things for a hire are if they're persistent, they do not make the same mistake 2 and 3 times. That means they're listening. And yeah, they just keep showing up day in and day out, and they want to learn more. And we had no inclination that he was going to be really, really good early on. And then he really got going. So that's where we had that team going for a very long time. And I did leave out one other. Around that time, I hired a buyer to buy in the store. So I had perfected my in-person shopping so much that I was confident enough to bring a guy out with me and have him do the exact same thing I was doing. if you're going to hire a buyer in the store, like same thing I said, take care of your VA and teach them everything you know. In the store, you set them up to succeed. You better already have the strategy, already tell them the rack to go to. You don't want them just, dropping them off at some random Marshalls and, hey, find sales rank under 100,000. That's not going to work. You better already make a lot of money and understand how to show somebody else that. So that was the super team we had for a long time before it started like really skyrocketing.
Wow.
And that's all you need, by the way. You do not need to have 15 employees. I have 12 now, and I'm almost thinking I'd rather have 8 or 9. I can get into that.
Wow, we'll get into that in a minute. The one thing I love there is like, the guy, the best guy he hired from Twitter, he wanted a job. And I love your point, the fact that he is, he's persistent, he doesn't make the same mistakes, and he's always listening. And I think that's something we look for in people. And I love the point you said about could be your next CEO. These aren't just like contractors. These are people who are staff, employees. So important. Really, really important. So thank you. I forgot to leave one thing out
about that guy. He doesn't speak English. One thing that really got me, I think that really sold me on him, is our conversations looked like he was translating so fast using Google Translate. I was like, this guy is serious. He's literally grabbing it, figuring it out, and sending me back a message translated back. I'm like, let's see what these guys got. Like I think that's what sparked me to be like, let's give this guy a little bit more time and see what he can do.
Does he still work for you now?
Yes, he's my top sourcer, and he still doesn't speak English. But we have a translator. We have him and one other guy. They're both in Venezuela, and we have a translator that for all major meetings, she shows up and she translates for them on the fly. Yeah.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. So you talked about the team of 3. I want to go up to the team of 26. That's pretty big, 10 million. What did that look like? Tell me about the structure. That's why not how you got there. Just tell me about the overall structure. How was it laid out? And then we'll talk about what happened after that. So talk me about the structure of 26. That's big.
I'm going to try to get this 90% correct. Let's say we had probably 12 or 13 sourcers. So people looking for leads, a head reviewer. We had a head accountant. We had a guy that was doing 100% wholesale. So you may start noticing we're spreading very thin here. I don't like first of all, I like to niche down into one product type, couple product types, get good at that. But now we're in retail arbitrage. We have the buyer I hired and 3 more in-person buyers. So we got a 4-person in-person American team. We got 13 online sourcers. We got a wholesale guy. We got a CEO, a head accountant, head reviewer, account health person, a checkout person. So basically people send out leads. The reviewer reviews it, and my idea there is checking out, actually buying the product is a low value activity. So take that out of the reviewer and sourcer, the top level people's hands. Check out probably 2 warehouse communication people that were communicating to prep centers. And I think maybe 1, because we were not tracking product very well. We were really just focusing on the buying. So I think that adds up to about that, and maybe leaving some out. There was a lot of free riding. There's a lot of free riding and a lot of loss of responsibility at that size.
How do you mean? So tell me, what does that mean? Like free riding, loss of responsibility. What are the issues operating that big team?
I believe after 10 employees, I think I watched a video with the Hormozy, Alex's the Lila Hormozy, and I think this is pretty common. After 10 employees, you got a corporation now. Like you have to build systems and procedures and ways of doing things. So you've just increased your workload big time just trying to build systems so people do the right thing. And even if you build all the systems perfectly, you have 25 people. How spread that is, like they no longer feel the full responsibility for the success of the company. They're responsible for the success of their task. The way I like to look at my Amazon company and the way I want to have a company, this is just me. Some people are great at building these systems, these giant machines of systems. I'm not there yet. I want a collaborative team where everyone feels responsible for the good of the whole. Everybody's you can throw everybody in a room and say, look, we need to do this together. I did not like that, okay, you're just sourcing in your room by yourself, putting up leads. Well, if you're not collaborating with the people around you, collaborating with the reviewer, you're giving the reviewer a bunch of bad leads. Just like a little example. So we really we got our sourcing team down to 4 now and 1 reviewer, and they're a super team. They're always together, always talking. You are responsible. If you give the reviewer a poor lead, like one that clearly you learned doesn't fit into certain requirements, you know it because everybody sees that you posted that. The reviewer talks right back to you and says, look, why would you post this? We just talked about this last week. So that, if you can kind of imagine the responsibility when you have a team of 5 like that in sourcing and a team of 13, more of a conveyor belt approach, that's what I got to see in real time, that it's not my style of company, at least for this kind of business right now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like, I have like 75 staff. So it's like, there are staff in my company that I've never met. Like, it's really surreal. Like, just to be able to say that, like, I've never had a one-to-one conversation or a proper, like, I've been in a group call, like all hands, for example, but like, I've never had a conversation with them. But I do 100% understand what you're saying is like, when you start getting big, you start like, we noticed it within our own company. It's like, whoa, like there are people who are probably not doing any work or like next to no work. And like, you've got to change the way you operate. And that causes so many problems. And I love, like, because obviously I know about your structure. We've had this conversation when I came and met you last year. And I love the fact that in my business, it's really simple. It's sources, purchasers, and then admin. That's it. We have slight variations on that. But you have like sources, reviewers, checkout people, and I love the checkout idea. I think it's really good because, especially we know it, like your ability to check out and get past checkout restrictions is an edge. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it usually when we met. Where you were like, I want this guy to be able to get past those restrictions because that means other people can't buy them, and that's another edge that I have over other people. So I thought that was really good. And then for you, if I just kind of come back, the one thing you did say was the issues you had at 10 million were around inventory, returns numbers, losses. So is there anything you could just kind of share around that? Like if anyone is like going on the same journey, looking at you and be like, what kind of indicators can they say where you're like, hey, you probably want to be checking these things? Because this is what we started to notice. So like maybe you can help share that advice.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. So we started counting our inventory. That was a big one. So when I say counting your inventory, you go in Inventory Lab and you see how much inventory you have. Well, that's just the stuff that's in Amazon and inbound. You also have inventory sitting at prep centers, and you also have inventory that you just purchased that's kind of like in transit to your prep center. So you have like these different places where your inventory is. And if you count that every single month and compare it to your profits, I won't get into the whole accounting, you can just see if you have any inventory loss each month. It's not going to be exact because it's hard to get the inventory count exact, but you're going to have an estimated idea as if there's some leakage somewhere. That's not really going to tell you exactly what it is. Now, the first area that you could be losing money on that you may not be looking for is removals. If you go to reports, fulfillment, and order shipment detail, removal, shipment detail, and removal order detail, you can see what products are being removed from Amazon. And that sometimes is one loss that you're not really accounting for that doesn't just like pop up in your Inventory Lab, because Amazon, they don't like automatically book that as a loss. You'd have to book that yourself. So that inventory is coming back to your warehouse. It's not being able to sold on Amazon for some reason, and you have to account for that. So that's one area I would look for. But me and you've talked about this before. There are so many areas that a piece of inventory could be lost. Like if we could just take it from, you go buy it and you buy it from the store, and they could charge you too much. Straight up, I've had emails where they updated our order and they took off a 90% discount. And a $1,000 order charged my card $10,000. So this was DSW, and they were knowingly doing this, by the way. And I really wish I had the bandwidth to go after something like that, like class action. But they were knowingly doing that, so that's one little area that you could have just been charged more. You might have been billed and they might not have shipped it. The package might have been lost in transit and you still got billed. For the most part, we noticed like a lot of stores have this right, but at size, you got to make sure you're not having these major leaks. In the early on, you really got to manage your time. So like I said before, sourcing is your most important, your high value activity. You got to spend a lot of time there. If it's just a one-man show, if it's you, maybe one other person, you can't spend 20 hours a week looking at making sure you're getting proper money back for stores. So you do have to just opportunity cost. You have to decide what is important early on. As you get big, all of these areas can grow into problems. And my theory was, let's just buy our way out of it. And that definitely did not pan out that way. So yeah, could be lost on the way to your prep center. Your prep center could steal it. Your prep center could, your prep center could ship very slow, send it in very slow. That was another issue we had. We weren't raising our hand when our prep centers were not sending things in quickly. So you want to this is not about inventory loss, but if you're sending things in so much slower than your competitors, you are just losing a huge advantage in online arbitrage. And by the time it gets there, the Keepa might already be crushed. Prep center could steal it. It could be lost in transit on the way to Amazon. Amazon could lose it on the receipt and not reimburse you. Amazon could lose it once it already has it and not reimburse you. So I don't even know if I covered them all. There's probably even more. But when you you get big, that becomes material and that can start to grow and start to become part of your bottom line. And that's why you start to need a department or a person that is always tracking every piece of inventory. And yeah, the goal, which we're still only like 80% to, is the goal is to know, and I think I got this from you, the goal of that department is we should know where all pieces of inventory are at all times. Like we should literally be able to locate it all. That's the goal. That's really hard to get to, like at least to get to 100% of that. But if you can get 90% of the way, you're feeling a lot more confident as a business owner for one.
It's you know, thank you so much for sharing. I think it's a really interesting point because, you know, we all look at the revenue, we look at like the ROI, the margin, for example, on it. And what we don't realize is that there's slippage at the back end. So while the front end looks great, you could be losing it all at the back end. And by the way, it's because it's an administrative process. Like it doesn't add value. We don't want to do it. It doesn't generate revenue, but it's kind of like, you know, plugging the holes in the leaky bucket. And I think, you know, from me to you and everyone watching, thank you so much for sharing about that, because when you're a small seller, these problems aren't such a big issue. But when you're a big seller, they start, you know, they're like, this is serious cash that, you know, you're walking out the door. You're like, whoa. So question for you, and thank you so much for sharing. So obviously you're 26, you had some problems around like, you know, reward, you know, you talked about lots of different things, like, you know, should we say the stock, the prep centers. I'm not saying they were exactly a problem, but like areas. And the team changed. You said, I think you mentioned now you're like down to like 4 sourcers, 1 reviewer. What is the structure of the team now? Tell me about that.
Similar structure, but yeah, only 4 sourcers and 1 reviewer. So you have like your little, it's essentially a risk management department. They're literally, or a risk asset, or it's like a trading department. They're literally, I want these guys to collaborate and get better and better at what they do. I don't want them just submitting leads that have good keepers, because right now that's still what they're doing. They're still like, you know, I would say we're still like a beginner squad, maybe a couple years in, playing against some people that have been doing this for 5 years and can look at a Keepa and look at a product and be like, I know this product's going to sell 10,000 units and it doesn't even show on the Keepa, or it doesn't show on the sales rank. And I would love, that's my goal for my team, to get to that point where they're thinking ahead of the competition. They're thinking another step ahead. That's the core, that's the value right there, the sourcing team and the reviewer. Reviewer has to be a brick wall. I'll go back to one other mistake as a big company is we were setting, and you know this, we were setting buy goals. And also at our size, buy goals only. So basically like, I was rewarding people based on how much they were buying. I was rewarding people based on how much we were selling, but the issue is similar to the inventory issue creeping on the back, is like the best stuff sells first. So I was rewarding everybody on the best stuff and not punishing people for inventory that was getting old. So that really, really crept. Now, instead of just setting a buy goal, which caused all kinds of issues because the sourcers would try to buy as much as possible. The reviewer had sort of incentive to let stuff in because they're all friends. The reviewer wants everybody to get their bonuses. Now the new structure is it's more of a buy score. Actually, our buy goals for 2023, I'm going to have it flat the entire year. We're going to try to buy 60,000 a week, but still, we're not really trying to buy 60,000 a week. We want them to be flexible. If there's a big week, if there's stuff to buy 100. If there's a shit week and there's just nothing out there, buy 30. So that's something that needs to be flexible. The deals are flexible. There's no reason. What we were doing before is we're buying 500,000 a month. We need to keep buying this to keep the company alive, essentially. So we're not distinguishing between good weeks and bad weeks and good products. It became a mess. So back to the structure. We got our sourcing squad 4 and 1. We got a head repricer. So sales is very important. Actually, when you have a lot of SKUs, actually making the sale properly and trying to do some repricing tactics makes sense. When you're early on, turning on a repricer and popping in and checking things here and there is probably enough. We have someone that does our eBay and Mercari store, because since we do accumulate some bad inventory, we can sell that. We can fulfill that directly from Amazon. We have 3 people. We have 2 people in warehouse, 1 for warehouse communication, 1 for tracking. Like this girl literally is just tracking all day long, every single product, and they both help each other. And then the 3rd in that department is checkout. So I think we're up to around 10. We have our CTO, who is sort of straddling this company, and he's starting to help me with my private label company. And then we have our COO. I think that's everybody. Oh, and account help. We have 1 account help person.
Wow. Question for you. Yes. So thank you so much. A question for you, because I know your numbers. I've seen the sales chart. What were you? I think when you had the 26 team, you were doing $1 million a month, weren't you?
Yeah.
And what are you doing now, revenue-wise? If you don't mind me asking.
We're about to put in a 600,000 plus month in December. Obviously, December it's a 2x. It should be a 2x month for you. So really, we might be operating around the 300, 400,000. But I think easily in 2023, very soon we will be at 600,000 per month, and then gunning for $1 million December month. All a $600,000 month for me it's basically buying $60,000 a week of extremely good product, and we already are hitting that. We already hit that in November, and our people are hitting it in like 3 days. Our 4 people are hitting 60,000 buys in like 3 days, and that's what's super exciting. Our people are getting way better, and we're not relying on just like tons of leads being sprayed in and like just this conveyor belt. I like the model I'm going with now, which is more of like a mastermind team kind of trying to figure out our buys.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. Number one, your team's like half of the size it was, but your revenue is higher than that, and obviously your profit. You're now doing far more profit, should we say, because you're buying the good buys, and like the other bit, the revenue dropping was all the bad part of it, should we say? Mm-hmm. But I come back to the point you talked about is like when you hire people, are they present? Are they persistent? Do they not make mistakes? Are they listening? Your best sourcer doesn't speak English, which is really funny. But also, as well, you think about it, this VA could be my next CEO. And what I know, obviously, from you is the fact that you're really investing in these people, building it, developing it, and building that team. It's not like a contractor relationship. It's about their staff. Like, my God, you invest so much in them. And what do you get? Oh my God, with the team of 13, you're doing $600K a month. Like, it's incredible. And obviously, probably similar profitability with a lot less stress than you were doing beforehand.
Yeah, I don't want a company that sucks up all my bandwidth. That is like, I don't want a company that we're barely maintaining and all of us are miserable. We want a stress-free company, because stress-free, it's not just because we're lazy. We might be a little lazy, but stress-free leads to mental bandwidth, leads to better decisions for the sourcers, better decisions by me. I'm always fighting to get more bandwidth for myself so that I can do the next project or expand on something in the company. And we were clearly at that point at 26 where we were just maintaining. If we're lucky, we were maintaining, but in reality, we were losing a little bit of money and hardly even maintaining. So now we're at the point of maintaining and actually enjoying the company. And I think 2023, we're going to be doing just like next level goal setting with everybody and just really trying to take everybody's what they think they can do to the next level.
Question for you: what does the future hold? What are you looking at? Like 1 year's time? Are you looking to build the team bigger? Are we going back up to 26, or you're like, no, I'm going to stay where I am. I'm pretty happy.
So as I mentioned before, our buy goals at the moment, I just hit my COO with my idea of metrics goals, which are sales, profit, ROI, aging, keeping products in and out before 90 days. I want her to hit X metrics and she can make X amount. One thing that does not improve, everything improves throughout the year except for buy goal. So that it actually maintains at that $60,000 a week buy. So that's stressing the importance of, look, we want to improve our quality all year. We're not trying to get bigger. Now, on the flip side, if we are crushing those metrics, we'll probably have a discussion where, all right, let's raise the buy goal a little bit because you guys are crushing the metrics. But is the exact opposite of the thinking I did in 2021, which is buy, we'll fix the quality later. Now it's like quality, and we'll raise the buy later if we get there. And honestly, that's the principle I always taught to people starting out too. You don't ever need to scale. I know you want to make money now, but you can always scale. It sounds crazy, but if you at a very small level, same thing with trading, if you could just make all your mistakes at a small level and improve, it's not that hard to do triple of what you're doing. It's really hard what I did. It took all year basically to fix what I did, which is, start doing kind of a poor job at buying and then expand on all those problems. And now we had to do pay cuts. We had to make sure people were still loyal to the company after pay cuts. So I couldn't give a lot of raises this year. We had to lose a lot of people that I really liked. We had to basically bring in completely new culture. Some really good people had to leave the company because they weren't a culture fit for the new company, which is one of accountability and answering each other in the chats. And when I started out, my first few people, we were very Wild West, very show up and do something and all on our own schedules. And that's not the new culture fit. My new COO has got everybody working together. And so I mean, you can do it my way and learn the hard way, but why not? Why not learn a little bit from my mistakes?
I love it. Honestly, thank you so much, and appreciate you're a busy man. So, question for you: if anyone wants to get in contact, maybe see more about your journey, contact you, what's the best way of doing it?
I think right now the best way is just hit me up, Trader Soros on Twitter. I'm like posting here and there right now, but I'm really going to be committing to getting a lot of content out in 2023, and then. Yeah, right now we're posting a lot of my video content on the Arbitrage Ops Instagram. I'm a co-founder of Arbitrage Ops. So yeah, feel free to hit up the Arbitrage Ops Instagram if you kind of like this business talk. I do a lot of it on there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And obviously from myself and everyone watching, thank you so much for everything you're sharing. And obviously I'll drop a link to all of them down below. But Soros, thank you so much. And obviously I will leave you to get back to building your business. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom. Always love coming on.